exposed. 7 sinister secrets of the cursed cemetery job that could haunt you forever. Emma could feel the weight of despair pressing down on her like the very gravestones she tended to every night. Just a few months back, she was merely a single mother trying to scrape by after her husband's untimely death. Now, she worked in the eerie, shadowy depths of a local cemetery, a place filled with century-old oaks and the whispers of forgotten souls. The air was thick, almost suffocating. Each gust of wind carried unsettling rustles between the graves, reminding her of the world that lay buried beneath. Maybe this job's not so bad, she told herself at first. But as the dusk settled, the trees towered like sentinels, casting elongated shadows that danced and flickered in the moonlight. There was something about this place. A thrill of terror wound its way through her veins as she watched the shadows intertwine with the headstones. Night after night, her imagination played tricks on her. The soft sounds of rustling leaves morphed into whispers, urging her to listen. They're just tricks of the tired mind, she assured herself, clutching the flashlight tightly. With every creaking board underfoot, dread seeped deeper into her bones. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But then there was that one night. A bone-chilling wind swept through, rattling the branches overhead. Emma saw a child's toy lying just outside an old grave, a rusted toy truck half buried in the damp earth. Paranoia bubbled within her. She shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts racing faster than her heart. But couldn't she feel it? An ancient connection? She picked up the locket, its edges cold against her palm. Inside, faded photographs stared back ghostly faces that felt painfully familiar. The oppressive silence began to claw under her skin. Town locals were suspiciously tight-lipped about forgotten histories, hushed conversations turning into stares as if she'd just unearthed an unspeakable secret. The legends of the Long Shadow woods pulsed in the back of her mind, unshakable and eerie. Then her world shattered. "Mommy!" The lady with no face. Ellie's screams ripped through the stillness, an echo mingling with the howling winds. Emma's heart sank as Noah trembled beside her. "She's coming for us." Their innocence whispered of nightmares the children had no right to know. Every protective instinct in Emma screamed to flee, escape the horrifying reality she had unwittingly thrust them into. Desperation fueled her search for truth. At the town library, she felt the chill of the place, a subtle decay lurking in the shadows. The librarian's eyes narrowed as questions lingered in the air between them, ambiguous answers provided only with cautious glances. It was all too clear the darkness could not be revealed. And then, a whisper reached her ears, a chilling declaration that left her breathless. "You can never leave." As the shadows deepened and the night thickened like fog around her, Emma felt it, a malignant grip closing in around her family. With dread coiling tightly, she glanced toward the cemetery, compelled to dig deeper than she ever thought possible. The silent specters beckoned, secrets and terrors waiting to be unearthed just below the surface. The cost of discovery loomed like a gathering storm, pushing her toward a decision that could cost her everything. The night grew heavier, the air thick with unspoken fears as Emma stood frozen. The whisper of inevitability hung around her like a cloud, suffocating yet alluring. With each pounding heartbeat, she felt the weight of the chilling revelation that loomed just beyond the surface of her understanding. "Mommy, what do we do?" Noah trembled beside her, wide-eyed and clutching Ellie's hand tightly, as if they could ward off the darkness simply by holding on. The sound of wind echoed through the cemetery like a warning bell tolling a distant reminder of the danger creeping closer. Emma turned abruptly, her flashlight beams slicing through the darkness, illuminating nothing but a chorus of shadowed gravestones. "Stay close," she whispered, forcing the edges of her voice to remain steady. Inside, however, panic twisted like a knife. She had to protect them. But from what? The anger tinged with despair bubbled in her chest. Was it just the fading memories of her husband that haunted her here? Or was something far more sinister at play? They stepped cautiously through the sprawl of graves, the soft earth giving way underfoot. Every crack and creak echoed their fear, the unrelenting silence amplifying the tension. A rustling came again, louder this time, a deliberate orchestration by unseen hands. Emma turned, the chill wrapping around her like a bitter embrace. "I don't want to be here," Ellie whimpered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to go home. Home." The thought felt like a betrayal. Every creak of the cemetery ground, every rustle in the bushes, every flicker of shadow against stone, promised that home was merely an illusion. She stole a glance toward the distant dim glow of streetlights beyond the trees, a world unmarred by supernatural calamities, haunted only by the mundane. But that world felt miles away, shrouded in the oppressive weight of twilight. As they pressed on, instinctively Emma felt drawn to a neglected path that snaked deeper into the graveyard. The tales of the Long Shadow woods pulsed in her head like a drumbeat, drowning out rational thoughts. The woods had secrets dark, twisted tales that echoed in the hushed whispers of townsfolk. And those secrets were entwining with her own fate. Suddenly, they heard it, a soft, dreadful giggle echoing from behind the graves. Emma turned, heart racing, knees almost giving way. "Did you hear that?" she asked, urgency lacing her tone. The wind carried it again, a chilling sound that felt all too familiar, the laughter of a child, warped and distorted. "Mommy, I'm scared," Noah whimpered, and Emma crouched, seeking to shield them with her body. The frostiness in the air cut through her, but it was the instinctual fear of being watched that sent her heart into overdrive. "She'll listen." Emma strained her ears, willing away the throbbing in her temples. The laughter swelled and then abruptly cut off. A tremor raced through her. Her body screamed to flee, but something deeper rooted her to the spot. And then it happened. A figure emerged from the shadows, a glimpse of movement, tangled in wisps of mist. Emma's breath caught. The child they'd heard just a moment ago stood there, faint, ethereal, and utterly unrecognizable. Her once innocent features twisted, as if marred by darkness itself. "Help me," the figure whispered, stretching a thin, translucent hand toward them. A surge of instinct kicked in, clawing at Emma's resolve. She could either run, abandoning the specter to the same fate as countless others, or she could step into the abyss and confront the horrifying truth that lay beneath it all. As the shadows thickened, and the air grew heavier, Emma's heartbeat pounded in synchrony with a terror she could neither escape nor understand. The moment drew tight, poised on a precipice of ultimate decision. Was it too late to turn back? As that haunting gaze locked onto hers, she felt the darkness pulling her in, edges fraying around her grip on reality. The whispers grew louder, clearer, pulling her deeper into the macabre embrace. What choice would she make, and could they survive the night? Emma's breath hitched as the shadows began to close in once more, an inexorable force tugging at her very soul. The air around Emma thickened, swirling with darkness that felt alive. She could taste the metal tang of fear on her tongue. The spectral child stood before her, a lifeless gaze in its hollow eyes, waiting for a response that Emma couldn't give. "Mommy, I want to go home." Noah squeezed Ellie's hand tighter, nearly pulling the little girl off her feet. Emma glanced back at them, the flicker of a maternal instinct sparking through the fog of terror. She should say something reassuring, offer comfort, but all that came out was silence, a gaping void that echoed the vast emptiness of the cemetery. The fabric of reality seemed to twist as she gazed into the child's distorted features. Elongated shadows danced around them, mocking her uncertainty. "Help me," the voice whispered again, softer this time, a silk thread wrapping around her mind. "Please, let us go." The urgency in Noah's voice rattled her, pulling her from the deep pit threatening to swallow her whole. Yet, her feet felt as if they were mortared to the ground. "What do you want?" The words tumbled out before she could think better of it. A ripple of dread surged through her, but it was too late. The question hung in the air, a beacon for whatever lurked beyond the grave. With an almost torturous grace, the figure moved closer, dissipating more of the mist. Its outstretched hand was eerily delicate, fingers elongated like brittle branches in winter. "Stay," it coaxed, a chilling smile creeping over a face that should have belonged to a young child, but instead carried the burden of a soul lost too soon. "Help find them who?" Emma bit back a sob, realizing she was inching closer to the edge, nervously teetering between sanity and despair. "What do you mean?" But the specter only tilted its head, a grim shadow of confusion washing over its form. Behind it, the cemetery seemed to shift. Gravestones that once appeared static now leaned toward her, the memories of the dead whispering ancient secrets, begging for release. "Noah! Ellie! Back!" Emma exclaimed, her voice snapping like a taut string. She instinctively shoved them behind her, desperate to shield their innocence from the horrors manifesting around them. Just then, a rustling erupted from the bushes to their right, the growl of an unseen creature reverberating through the air, primal and raw. "What was that?" Ellie cried, eyes wide with terror. Emma's stomach dropped, and her mind raced. She had to act fast. There was no way they could just stand here, clinging to shadows and whispers. They had to move, run. She shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. She turned on her heel, flashlight beam slicing the blackness ahead. The path appeared unclear, shrouded in a loaf-like fog that threatened to swallow them. Emma felt the spectral child's presence lingering behind her, a lingering gaze that followed them, almost like a malevolent guardian. Panic surged through her as the sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoed behind them. The earth groaned beneath her feet, as if the very ground was waking from years of slumber. "Mommy, it's going to get us." Noah's voice broke through her thoughts, a warning that triggered something primal. "Don't look back," Emma insisted, glancing briefly over her shoulder. The figure stood rooted at the grave, its hollow eyes glinting with something unfathomable, a longing, a warning. The darkness around it churned, and for a fleeting moment, Emma felt it pulse. "Mommy!" Ellie screamed again, and with a sudden rush of instinct, Emma reached for their hands. They ran, hearts pounding, racing toward the entrance of the cemetery that now felt like a mirage. But the deeper they went, the more disoriented Emma felt. The trees in Long Shadow Woods loomed like watchful giants ready to close in. In her mad dash, she couldn't shake the feeling they were not just running from something. What was following them? The sound of laughter, now sinister, echoed all around. She could hear the whispers of the graves, mixing with children's giggles, mocking her desperation. "Faster!" she shouted again, as the shadows lengthened behind them. Would they escape the ethereal grasp of the cemetery, or were they about to be consumed by its terrifying history? Emma felt the ground shift beneath them, reality faltering in a way she couldn't comprehend. Out there, in the haunting woods, something ancient awaited them. Whatever they found next could either save them or strip them of their very souls. Would they dare unveil the truth that lay in the heart of Long Shadow Woods? The moonlight barely pierced the thick canopy of leaves above, throwing their path into a suffocating darkness. Emma's breath quickened, each inhalation feeling heavier with the weight of dread. The laughter that echoed around her was no longer just a terrifying sound. It morphed into a symphony of malicious glee, twisting into her mind like a serpent coiling around its prey. "Mommy, I can't see," Noah whimpered, stumbling slightly. Emma felt the tug of panic in her chest tighten like a vice. She couldn't lose him, she couldn't let anything happen to her children. "Hold on to my hand," she shouted, reaching back to grasp Noah's small fingers. Ellie was close behind, a trembling shadow in the night. The raspy laugh faded momentarily, but the feeling of being hunted only intensified. They plunged deeper into Long Shadow Woods, the gnarled branches reaching down like skeletal fingers yearning to grasp them. Every snap of a twig underfoot echoed the pulse in her ears. The darkness seemed to possess a weight of its own, pressing against her as if it were trying to suffocate her hope. "Where are we going?" Ellie whispered, a quaver in her voice that sliced through Emma's resolve. She fought the urge to scream. The uncertainty of their situation gnawed at her insides. Theresa rode up ahead. She lied through her teeth, knowing she had to keep them moving. Just a little further. As they pressed on, the ground softened beneath their feet, a treacherous mix of mud and roots. Emma stumbled, nearly losing her grip on Noah. The giggling returned, growing louder and more jubilant until it felt as if the very trees were laughing at their desperation. Suddenly, a blinding light flared in front of them, momentarily corroding the darkness. Emma raised the flashlight, desperate to find its source. In that brief illumination, she saw a figure darting between the trees, its shape flickering, barely more than a shadow. Was it another lost child? Or something sinister, waiting for them to take the bait? "Noah, stay close," she urged, but her voice trembled. Behind them, unseen footsteps scampered, echoing like raindrops on bare earth. She took off again, her legs driving forward through the grim haze. "Mommy, I'm scared," Noah pleaded, his voice punctured by panic. That feeling of dread wrapped tighter around Emma's heart. "Me too, baby. Just keep holding on." But every inch felt like a betrayal of promises she'd made to protect them. The laughter swelled again, a haunting chorus that spiraled into chills along her spine. "Help me find them," the whisper tugged at her mind, mingling with the shadows that watched and waited, hungry eyes peering from the dark confines of the cemetery. "What do you want?" Emma screamed into the void, her voice cracking under the weight of it all. The trees shivered around her, silent as stone. "Mommy!" Noah's grasp pulled her back. "There's something behind you." She turned just in time to see the figure emerging from the fog, a face twisted in a horrible grin, empty and hollow like the graveyards they had just fled. "Stay," it beckoned, its voice dripping with honeyed malice. Emma's breath caught. "Noah, run to the light. Now!" They shot forward like arrows released from a bow, propelled by sheer instinct. But as Emma dashed ahead with Noelle and Ellie, branches snagged at her clothes like skeletal hands. The freezing wrist of panic seized her heart as she heard the grunt of a creature, low and growling, something waiting to claim them, yearning to pull them back into the dark. As they broke through the hawthorn thicket, the trees finally parted, leading them to a clearing bathed in the faint glow of moonlight. Emma froze. Before them lay an old, abandoned house, worn down and crumbling under the weight of years spent alone. "Is it safe?" Ellie whispered, both of them still trembling. But something about the house felt wrong, its windows dark and foreboding, like eyes watching them as they approached. The door creaked ominously in the wind, swaying slightly as if beckoning them closer. "Let us go inside," Noah urged, the thrill of the chase still racing through his young veins. Emma hesitated. "We can't. We need to find a way out of here," she said, glancing back, as the shadows coiled around them. But there was something in the house that drew her in a pull she couldn't resist. As they stepped toward the threshold, the darkness behind them stirred, the laughter now close enough to feel like icy breath at their necks. "What do you think lies inside?" In that moment, beneath the weight of history and haunting whispers, Emma felt the terrible truth settle in her stomach. They weren't just running to escape. They had been lured. "Mommy, what if it's a trap?" Ellie's voice quavered. They stood at the edge of an unknown abyss. Did they dare take that final step? Or would it lead them into a fate worse than the horrors chasing them? What secrets lay buried within that house, waiting for them to find them? Emma felt the darkness gather, and a sense of finality crept in. The moment Emma stepped toward the decrepit house, an overwhelming urge to flee coursed through her. The air buzzed with the weight of the unknown, a heavy dread that clung to her skin like a fog. She glanced at Noah and Ellie, their wide, frightened eyes reflecting her own terror. "Maybe we should just go back," Ellie whispered, her voice a mere thread in the oppressive silence. But the laughter was louder now, swirling around them like a dissonant wind, taunting almost. "Stay with us," it hissed, twisting around her mind like vines creeping up a dilapidated wall. Emma felt a tumult of emotions fighting for dominance, fear clashing with the instinct to protect. Inside, she murmured, her voice trembling beneath the weight of their predicament, "We can hide. just for a moment. Noah nodded, still clutching Emma's hand, drawing strength from her presence as they stepped over the threshold. The door creaked an ominous welcome, the sound resonating in the stillness. As they entered, the darkness enveloped them like a living shroud. Shadows danced across peeling wallpaper that smelled of mold and decay. A chill settled in the air, wrapping around them like ice, making Emma's skin crawl. Something in the house sighed a gentle, mournful sound that sent a shiver down her spine. "Mommy?" Noah's voice trembled in the darkness. "It's too dark. I can't see anything." "Stay close," Emma instructed, frantically turning the flashlight beam around the room, exposing fragments of the past: a crushed rocking chair, a shattered mirror, and the claw marks etched into the splintered floor by something long gone but not forgotten. A rustle behind them sent a jolt through Emma's heart. She swung the flashlight back, but the beam only revealed the corners of decay. The house seemed alive, breathing in whispers, revealing secrets hidden in shadows. "There has to be a way out," Emma whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. Every moment felt like an eternity as she listened, straining for any sound that would signal a presence other than her own. "Mommy, there's something over there." Ellie pointed into the far corner of the room, where the darkness pooled as if clinging to an unseen shape. Emma's pulse quickened. "Stay together," she urged, edging closer to Ellie, who pressed against her side, trembling. The shadows seemed to ripple at their approach, twisting and writhing with the haunted echoes of laughter. "Help me," the raspy plea dripped from the walls, each syllable sending waves of dread cascading over Emma. Cold sweat trickled down her back. "Help me find them." "Find who?" Emma yelled, an instinctive fear bubbling into anger. "What do you want from us?" The laughter exploded around her, high-pitched and manic. "We're all here together. Noah, Ellie, cover your ears." Emma screamed as the sound crescendoed into a nightmarish cacophony, drowning her thoughts. In an instant, she felt a rush of air, cold and stinging, sweeping through the room. Then came a loud crash, a window exploding, shards flying into the air like vicious little daggers. The rapid flicker of the flashlight highlighted a swarm of shadowy figures rushing toward them, their mouths twisted into grotesque grins. "Run!" Emma shouted, instinctively grabbing Noah and Ellie by the hands. The chaos erupted behind them as they darted toward the nearest door. Each frantic step reverberated in the hollow spaces of the house, but the darkness surged forward, hot on their heels. "Mommy, I can't," Noah cried, stumbling. An icy grip seized Emma's heart as she yanked him back up, pulling him fiercely against her. Outside, the moonlight was stark, slashing through the residual darkness. But it didn't illuminate their salvation. It cast menacing shadows behind them, twisting the figures of their pursuers into monstrous shapes. Emma threw open the door and stumbled into the clearing, gasping for breath. As they bolted away from the house, hearts racing, the laughter faded into the distance. But the shadows trailed behind, slinking low to the ground, planning their next move. "What was that?" Ellie breathed, still clutching her mother's shirt. "I don't know," Emma managed, fear sinking deep into her bones. "But we're not safe yet." The trees seemed to lean closer, as if overhearing their desperation. Emma's gaze darted back. The house was silent now, but she felt the weight of it behind her, heavy, watching. As they moved away, Emma's mind raced. How had they been lured there? What secrets lay buried, waiting for them to unearth? They needed answers, but at what cost? As they sprinted into the woods once more, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was alive, that its very roots cradled the stories of those who had been trapped before them. And in that moment, doubt clawed at her. Were they truly escaping? Or had they only stumbled from one nightmare into another? Ahead, a faint glow flickered, drawing them forward. But what fresh horrors awaited under its light? The glow grew warmer, coaxing Emma and the kids forward even as her instincts screamed for them to turn back. The air felt electric, humming with a promise that made her skin prickle. Noah squeezed her hand tighter, his small frame trembling beside her. Ellie clung to her other arm, peering into the trees, where shadow and flickering light danced in a macabre waltz. "What is it?" Ellie whispered, her voice low. "It's pretty." Emma forced herself to breathe, to keep calm in front of her children. "Let us just stay together, all right? One step at a time." With tentative steps, they approached the source of the light. The trees parted slightly, revealing a small clearing bathed in an eerie, golden glow. An ancient stone archway loomed ahead, ivy creeping up its weathered edges like fingers grasping for something lost. Beyond it lay a clearing filled with skeletal trees and tombstones jutting out of the ground like teeth in a skeletal grin. "Noah." Emma's voice wavered. "What do you see?" "Looks like a graveyard," Noah said, eyes wide with terror and curiosity. "But it's so bright here." "Not bright enough," Emma breathed. Something felt off. The glow hadn't illuminated the area as much as painted everything with an unnatural sheen, a gloss covering the decay that lay beneath. They stepped into the clearing, the air thickening around them, suffocating. Each grave seemed to moan softly in the wind, whispering secrets too old to understand. The laughter from the house felt faint now, but beneath it lurked a deeper, more sorrowful melody that seemed to call from within the graves. "Mommy, I don't like it here," Ellie whimpered, instinctively moving closer. Emma nodded, searching the ground for a path, the worn tombstones now making it difficult to navigate. "Let us find a way through. We can head back to the road. Just keep moving." As they walked, the laughter returned, echoing around them like a sinister symphony, rising and falling with their footsteps. "Help me," the plea tugged at Emma's heart. She froze, the color draining from her face. "Did you hear that?" Noah's eyes darted from side to side, panic etched across his face. "Yeah," Emma whispered. The shadows between the graves seemed to swirl, gathering like storm clouds overhead. They were being watched. She glanced urgently at Ellie, who trembled, her lips pressed into a tight line. "Mommy!" Ellie cried suddenly, pointing at a nearby grave. A figure seemed to materialize among the shadows, a ghastly shape emerging from the dirt, twisted and pale. It wore a tattered dress, faded and frayed, and its expression was one of unending despair. Emma's heart raced. "Get behind me!" The entity outstretched a hand, fingers elongated, beckoning slowly. Emma's feet felt rooted to the ground as the figure began to whisper. Help me find them." "Help who?" Emma managed, fear tinged with anger. "What do you want from us?" The figure wailed, a sound cutting through the air like a knife, and as it did, the ground beneath them trembled. "Run!" Emma shouted, seizing both of her children by the arms, pulling them back. As they turned to flee, the cries followed them, rising into a frenzied wail that filled the graveyard. They stumbled through the archway, but its warmth faded the moment they crossed into the darkness of the trees. The whispers grew frantic, chasing them through the woods like a pack of wild animals. "Faster!" Emma shouted, feeling the cold breath of the unseen pursuers at their backs. They raced through the trees, twigs snapping underfoot, the shadows stretching and clawing as if trying to capture them in their depths. But then something caught her eye, a reflection of light ahead, flickering like a beacon. Hope surged in Emma's chest. "Over there. We can make it." But as they dashed toward the light, a piercing scream erupted from behind them. Emma's heart stopped. It was a sound filled with pure agony, and she felt it reverberate through her very soul. The darkness was not just chasing them, it was hungry. What waited at the edge of the trees? They reached the light, trembling at the edge of a forgotten path cloaked in old stones. But as Emma turned to pull her children through, her blood ran cold. The shadows congregated behind them, swirling as if alive, and out of it emerged the twisted faces of the dead, no longer silent, but hungry for escape. "Why did you leave us?" they moaned as the air thickened. Fear gripped Emma, tightening around her throat. "We need to go," she gasped, pulling Noah and Ellie back toward the flicker of hope ahead. But what awaited them there? Safe passage or deeper despair? Panic surged through Emma as she pulled her children back toward the flickering light. The echoes of hoarse cries wrapped around them like a wild tempest, each sound mingling with their pounding hearts. The faces in the darkness swirled closer, their hollow eyes watching with insatiable hunger. "Mommy!" Noah whimpered, his hand slipping from hers as he was temporarily caught in fierce grip. "Noah!" Emma shouted, heart racing as she lunged forward to grip his small arm again. "Hold on tight." The path ahead glimmered through the shadows, promising safety just a few steps beyond the turmoil. But the weight of despair hung in the air, heavy and smothering. The dead, mouths agape in silence, stared as they retreated. Emma felt their gaze gnawing at her back. "Keep moving," she urged, her voice a jagged whisper. They stumbled down the mossy path, each step meeting with a sickening squish as if the earth itself was trying to pull them down. The flickering light grew brighter, illuminating warped branches around them with a sickly yellow hue. Emma could feel the chill creep up her spine. What leaped before them was too eerily familiar, shadows from her past slipping into her mind. A memory, buried deep, clawed its way to the surface, her own fears as a child, of the dark corners under her bed and shadows that held whispers of doom. She glanced down at Noah and Ellie, their small faces strained and terrified, and she felt a deep surge of protectiveness fueled by an instinctual urge to survive. Then, with a sudden crack, a branch fell behind them, the sound like thunder echoing in the suffocating silence. Emma looked back. The figures hadn't moved but instead seemed to ripple like water, their forms merging, blurring between the living shadows. "Run!" Emma cried again, pushing them forward as her feet pounded against the stone path. A low, anguished moan emerged from the shadows, a chorus of lost souls yearning for release. But the light, it was here. Wasn't it supposed to guide them to safety? They burst through the thick underbrush, rushing toward the glow, praying for it to be real. As they crossed onto the old stones, the air shifted, heavy as a shroud. "Help me find them," the voice sobbed through the trees, wrapping around Emma like ivy around a twisted tree trunk. She could almost see her breath in the cold air, her heart rattling her ribcage as she pushed on. "Mommy?" Ellie's voice broke through the haze, trembling like a whisper against a storm. "What if it's not safe? What if they follow us?" Emma turned to look at the intensity in her daughter's wide eyes. "We have to keep going. Sweetheart, we can't stop now." Just then, the reflection of the light twisted into something sharper. A bone-white skull grinned in the brightness, its hollow eyes pulsing with an unholy rhythm. Emma froze, horror spilling through her veins. Seconds felt like hours as the skeleton's smile widened, the glimmering light now dimly revealing rows of shattered bones scattered around the clearing, half buried in the soil like offerings to ancient gods. "No," Noah whispered, his hand tight in her grip. He pressed against his mother, shielding himself against the unseen terror that loomed. Emma's breath rattled in her chest. "We have to get to the other side of the clearing. Just a few more steps." But the shadows began to elongate and weave, tendrils creeping forward as if sentient. They stretched toward Ellie, hungry and eager. With a desperate surge, Emma threw an arm around her daughter, pulling her in close. "None of you will hurt my children," she screamed, feeling despair and rage ignite within her. But as the shadows writhed and danced, Emma caught a glimpse of what waited beyond the glow, a large figure cloaked in darkness. A guardian of the cursed ground? A vengeful spirit? The questions gnawed at her mind as the darkness began to press in. The air grew colder, the light flickering more erratically now, as if responding to Emma's fear. She didn't know how, but the grip of the shadows was tightening around her family. The monsters wouldn't let them escape without paying their price. "What do they want from us?" Ellie cried, her small voice trembling on the edge of terror. "Help me find them," echoed in Emma's mind, a haunting mantra that wouldn't relent. Just then, a bell rang out in the distance, breaking the horrid spell that seemed to bind Emma and the children. It was a reminder of life beyond this graveyard of nightmares, a sound that offered a flicker of hope. But as they turned to flee, the figure loomed larger in the light, and the ground began to shake. Emma had one last chance. Would they choose the light and face the unknown, or succumb to the shadows that beckoned them home? On 3, Emma whispered urgently, racing against time. 1, 2, 3. The question loomed in the air, colder than winter. Could they outrun the darkness before it consumed them whole? They ran. The light flickered, casting quick shadows that seemed alive, clawing at their heels as if the forest itself was reaching to hold them back. Emma's heart thundered, each beat a reminder of how close they were to being swallowed whole by the darkness that was unrelenting, tangible. Noah. Ellie. She didn't dare look behind. Keep going. The path twisted before them, an inky maw of shadows looming. The bell rang again, distant but unwavering, a promise, a taunt. Emma could feel her resolve hardening. The remnants of her childhood terrors felt childish now, but they surged within her. If she could confront those demons then, surely she could do it now for her children. But the shadows were slippery, pulling away from the light and creeping into the hidden cracks of the stones like a sickness. They could sense their fear. She could almost hear the whispers of the dead rising once more, their words stitched into the rustling leaves, begging for release. What do they want? What do they need? A sudden pull on her arm nearly knocked her off balance. Noah was stumbling. "Mommy," he gasped, tears streaming down his cheeks. I can't keep running. Just a little further, Noah," Emma urged, squeezing his hand tighter. They needed to reach the heart of the light, whatever that meant. It felt like a fragile lifeline, but she couldn't let them down. Not now. Not ever. Behind them, the sound escalated, a cacophony of despair wrapping around them like a thick blanket, enveloping everything in an icy grip. No matter how many steps they took, the shadows closed in, denser and darker, thrumming with an otherworldly energy. Emma risked a glance back and her stomach dropped at the sight. A horizon of writhing darkness, tongues of shadow reaching toward them like an army ready to prey. Terror knotted in her gut, paralyzing her. "We need to pick up the pace. Now," she shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. Ellie's small legs pumped behind them, but Emma worried they wouldn't last much longer. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled violently, a rumbling growl that reverberated through their bones. The skeletal figure she glimpsed earlier loomed closer, its skeletal frame now a juggernaut of bones and shadows. It raised a hand, a long, bony finger pointed at them, as if marking them for something vile. "Mommy," Ellie cried, voice cracking, eyes wide with disbelief. "What is that?" Emma forced herself to breathe, to fight the panic clawing at her throat. "I don't know, sweetheart. But we can't let it catch us." The figure let out an unholy wail, a sound so chilling that the trees seemed to shudder. Emma felt the air around them compress as if the weight of the shadows was bearing down, thick and suffocating. "Keep running. Don't look back." But looking back was impossible. It felt as if a thread was pulling her into the void behind them. The cries intensified, twisting in a symphony of sorrow that circled like vultures. Shadows howled, the very essence of despair boiling over in front of them. They had to break through or be torn apart. With renewed vigor, Emma urged her children toward the light ahead, a beacon in the nightmare they were living. "We're almost there. Just a bit more." But as they charged forward, the ground shifted beneath her, swallowing their momentum with a violent jerk. "No," Emma gasped, feeling herself fall as the earth crumbled away. "No, Mommy!" Noah screamed as he reached out, his small hand slipping from hers. Time slowed. Emma grasped for her son, the chasm opening beneath them, yawning like a monstrous mouth hungry for sacrifice. She could taste the dread, sharp and biting, as she lunged. Would she reach him before the abyss claimed them? Before she could answer the question, the shadows coalesced, pulling Noah into a swirling vortex of darkness. The screams pierced the night, echoing in the recesses of her mind as Emma's eyes went wide with horror. She felt herself teetering on the edge, pulled between her children and the abyss, the darkness hungering for what it craved. "Mommy!" His voice echoed, the distance, stretching like a taut string about to snap. Would they be lost forever? Could she save him? And as the darkness surged, she choked out a single desperate word. "No." The shadows writhed, answering her scream, and Emma's world collapsed into chaos. The light flickered one last time. What lay beyond could either save them or drag them into the depths of despair. The darkness surged like a tidal wave, swallowing everything whole. Emma felt herself being pulled back into the vortex with unprecedented force, her body twisting in an unseen grip. The scream of her son echoed in her mind, drowning out the wailing shadows and the frantic pounding of her own heartbeat. Noah. The name tore from her as an anguished plea, but it faded into the howling wind, a whisper lost in the chaos. The earth beneath her was devouring her, a ravenous chasm stretching ever wider. Her fingers clawed for purchase, fabric tearing, but nothing solid remained. The last image she had of Noah was his frightened face. Eyes wide and reaching, she could almost feel his tiny hand slipping from hers. The shadows were alive, writhing and distorted, twisting into the semblance of anguished faces, layered with sorrow and wrath. They laughed with derision, their voices a cacophony that churned in her mind like a bitter potion. Join us, it murmured, threading through the air and coiling around her heart. Desperation ignited in Emma. She couldn't lose him. She wouldn't let the darkness claim her family. With a surge of will, she launched herself sideways, propelling herself away from the chasm's edge. The shadows recoiled, surprised by her sudden movement. In that brief, fleeting moment, clarity pierced through the madness. "Ellie, stay by me," Emma cried, scrambling on her knees as she pulled her daughter against her, hugging her tight. The little girl shivered, her whimpers blending into the rolling darkness. A guttural laugh reverberated through the shadows. The skeletal figure S-form expanded, towering and unnaturally elongated as if time and space distorted around it. It opened its mouth wide, revealing a void deeper than the abyss. "Your souls belong to us," it boomed, breath a cold gust that carried the scent of decay. Emma squeezed her daughter's eyes shut, trying to shield her from the horrors they faced. "We're not yours," she shouted defiantly, steeling herself. "You don't get to take us." The figure lunged, its bony hand slashing through the air with a speed that belied its size. Emma's muscles coiled. She darted to the right, adrenaline igniting every nerve, and felt the brush of icy fingers whistle past her ear. Panic surged through her like a flood, but she couldn't falter, not now. "Run! Run, Ellie!" They scrambled away from the looming silhouette, every step feeling like a battle waged in treacle. Emma pushed Ellie forward, nearly dragging her along, the shadows snapping at their heels like ravenous dogs. The bell tolled again, a mournful sound, echoing from somewhere deep within the forest. It felt distant yet near, resonating with the pulses of darkness. "Follow the sound," Emma yelled, desperation lacing her voice. They veered off the beaten path, bursting into the thick underbrush, twisting and turning through shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. Every snap of a twig, every whisper of rustling leaves sent jolts of fear through Emma's veins. Was the light still there? Had they lost it? Moments of worry crept in, sticky and suffocating. What if they were completely lost? A sudden thud resonated behind them. The figure was following, relentless in its pursuit. Emma's breath burned in her chest, each inhalation a struggle. "We have to keep going," she urged, horrified that time was slipping like sand between her fingers. They stumbled together through a clearing, breathless and desperate, and hopes began to flicker again. There it was, the soft glow of the light she had glimpsed before. Almost there. But just as they pushed forward, the ground quaked violently again, sending both Emma and Ellie spiraling to the earth. The otherworldly laughter filled the space around them, teasing and mocking. "No," Emma grunted, scrambling to her knees, reaching for the glimmer ahead. Each second stretched into an eternity as she felt the shadows curling around them once more, pulling them back. Would they ever reach the light? Could she conquer the darkness before it consumed them completely? Time slowed to a crawl as the shadows lunged yet again. And then a flash of memory seemingly unfurling amidst the chaos. A choice awaited her. A secret she hadn't yet uncovered. What would happen if she took a leap of faith? The light flickered, then dimmed. What lay waiting at the threshold of shadows and illumination? She couldn't tell, but the darkness pulsed with insatiable hunger, waiting for her answer. A crack of thunder rolled through the sky, echoing the turmoil raging within Emma's heart. As she dug her fingers deeper into the earth, the shadows enveloped her and Ellie, pulling at her resolve. Behind them, the skeletal figure now towered, a living embodiment of their worst fears, flames of hunger dancing in the abyss that formed its mouth. "Mommy, I don't want to be here," Ellie shrieked, clutching Emma tightly. Emma's heart raced. Every instinct screamed for her to run, yet the weight of despair pressed down like an iron shroud. The familiar bell tolled again, its sound enveloping them an anchor amid the chaos. The light flickered at the edges of her vision, a beacon in the storm. "Ellie, we have to trust the light," Emma shouted, determination igniting her voice. "We can find it together." The shadows clawed at their ankles, releasing a chorus of anguished cries as they fought the tightening grip. Emma tightened her hold on Ellie and spun toward the ethereal glow, a well of hope drawing them in like moths to flame. "Keep moving. Don't look back," she urged. They plunged ahead, pushing through thick undergrowth and brambles that slashed at their arms and legs. The chill of despair thickened around them, clinging like mist, but they pressed forward, the warmth of the light growing brighter, more inviting. Suddenly, a surge of energy burst within Emma. Memories flared in her mind, her husband's laughter, the hugs shared during quieter moments, their promise to always protect their children, no matter the cost. With that realization, a fierce resolve solidified within her. "Let go. Let not your fear claim you," Emma cried, her voice ringing through the oppressive darkness, waking courage deep in her heart. As they reached the boundary of the glimmering light, time seemed to suspend. The shadows recoiled at the edge, shrieking like feral animals caught in the brightness, their faces shifting between expressions of fury, agony, and desperation. "Find us," they whimpered, hollow echoes stretching through the air, as Emma felt strands of the shadows reach for her. "Not today," she screamed defiantly. She focused all her energy, wrapping Ellie's small frame within her protective embrace. As she stepped into the light, the warmth cocooned them, the darkness now just a memory fading at the edges. Suddenly, reality snapped back into focus. The trio tumbled forward into a clearing, the brightness piercing the gloom that haunted them. Emma gasped, the ground firm beneath her, the sounds of the forest a harmonious symphony rather than a cacophony of fears. Noah appeared at her side, his face pale, but the spark of relief flickered in his eyes. "Mommy, Ellie," he gasped, reaching for them. "I thought I lost you." Emma kneeling down, urgency surged through her. "We're together. We made it." Each heartbeat felt like a promise, bolstered by their shared triumph over the shadows they had fled. As she clutched both children close, their warmth reminded her they were victorious. Then the memories of lost souls lingered, their haunting whispers faded into the distance as the wind coursed through the clearing. Relief swept over Emma. Those souls, twisted by despair, lingered only in the realm of the dark. They had uncovered the truth. Together, united against terror, they could fight against the darkness and emerge into the light. But they had not simply escaped, they had gained wisdom, insight that lingered like a flicker of brightness within. As dawn broke on the horizon, the darkness began to retract, retreating into the forgotten corners of the woods, no longer looming but merely a whisper of what could have been. Emma stood, brushing dirt from her knees, her voice thick with emotion. "We must never forget what we encountered," she said softly, gazing at Noah and Ellie, their faces still lit with wonder and trembling amazement. "But we must also always believe in the light." Together, hand in hand, they took that first step into the world beyond the woods, sunlight spilling over them, each beam a testament to resilience and a new beginning. As they moved forward, laughter bubbled between them, a sweet reminder of their bond, a melody that resonated in harmony with the world around them. Together, they had conquered the shadows, becoming stronger than the darkness that had once threatened to claim them. Emma embraced each moment, the world shifting back to normalcy, but knowing that together they could face anything. And as they walked away, the final remnants of the haunted cemetery faded behind them, like echoes of a long-lost nightmare now relegated to memory. They turned to leave the woods behind, the shadows relinquishing their grasp, aware that they were finally free. Now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us keep these thrilling tales alive. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense finale. Your support means everything. Show it now.